Hey there, how's it going? ZmanTheTech here, and I want to thank you for tuning into SnoleyGames. As always, I appreciate you very much, and today I'm going to cover my top 10 favorite budget/indie racing games on Nintendo Switch. Without much further ado, let's get it in. Starting off with number 10 on my list, we have Star Wars Racer. This game was a must-have for Star Wars fans on N64 back in the day. Arguably, the Dreamcast version was more superior graphically, and from what I've seen, that version was pretty close to the PC port as far as visuals go. When I first heard that a cleaned up HD port was coming to the Switch, it was an instant buy for me. Anywho, this one was always cool to me because of its smooth and responsive controls and unapologetic fast-paced nature. This port runs at a pretty consistent 60 FPS, and the work put into the textures and assets is very much evident. The soundtrack for this game is of course the other aspect that Star Wars fans look forward to for sure, and thankfully it doesn't disappoint. To sum things up, in this fast-paced futuristic racing game, you have vehicles that can be damaged if you hit walls and obstacles, which can in turn cause you to explode and set you back a great deal. Now, the rubber banding in this game is little to none at all, so gaining the lead is actually not very difficult. The main thing that makes this game challenging is the need to drive carefully to keep your vehicle from taking damage and the management of your engine temperature. Should your engine overheat to the point to where it warns you, you have the ability to repair it during the race. It's also pretty nice that you have a vast number of characters to choose from and the ability to manage your pod racer as far as parts for repairs and upgrades. If you haven't tried this one, I'd say it's worth it, especially with a buddy. Just keep in mind that multiplayer is 2 players local only, so if you're looking for online playability, you won't find it in this one. Despite that limitation, there's still a decent time to be had with this one, and if you're interested, you can grab it up for $14.99. Check it out. Coming in at number 9 on my list is Horizon Chase Turbo. When this game was first announced, I lost my wits. Akidis did an outstanding job at modernizing the classic retro style of racing games from the early 90s era, much in the likeness of Outrun and Top Gear. And they couldn't have made a better choice by hiring Barry Leach as the composer for the game, who actually composed for the aforementioned title Top Gear and countless other games too. If you've played Outrun, Top Gear, or the like, you'll feel right at home with this one. The low poly graphical approach the devs took actually meshes really well with the classic art style of the genre. From the horizontal bars that give the game that extra sense of speed, to the animations and feel the car hugging the road on extremely tight turns that you have seconds to react to, everything is on point here. There's a level of depth here that really allows the player to both manage gas consumption by paying attention to the fuel meter and collecting fuel tanks to keep it as topped off as you can and knowing when to use nitrous. Even though nitrous canisters are collected separately and the number of them that you have determines if you can use it or not, it still consumes fuel too. The game's quick and snappy nature makes for a great arcade-like experience that can be enjoyed either solo or with up to 4 players locally. Sadly, there isn't any online multiplayer simultaneously, however you can race your friend's ghost car to try to beat their time. As far as the vehicles, more can be unlocked gradually as you play, with a standard unlock system that's very welcome. Now, there is some optional DLC available that adds more vehicles, tracks, and the like, though it's not needed to finish the main game. They consist of Summer Vibes, Sena Forever, and Rookie Series. The price is fair for them, and I highly recommend it, especially the Rookie Series since it's free. That DLC is for the beginners to the genre, and it omits the need to collect coins and manage fuel, so the player can get acclimated with the game before jumping into World Tour and other modes. The Summer Vibes DLC is a great deal for $1.99, and it adds more of an Outrun vibe to the experience, allowing you to ride coast to coast in a classic convertible roadster with 5 unlockable skins. The Sena Forever DLC is a tribute to the legendary Ayrton Senna, and it offers 5 exclusive chapters to the single-player career mode with an exclusive first-person view perspective and much more content to unlock. This one is super fun with friends for couch co-op, so make sure to give it a try. You can scoop it up for $19.99. Next on the list, at number 8, we have Formula Retro Racing. This is another low-poly racing experience inspired by the classic arcade racers of the early 90s. This one gives me heavy vibes of a series on Sega called Virtua Racing, which is one I'll touch on later. The main difference would be the physics when it comes to the comparison of the two. This game feels a little more realistic, whereas Virtua Racing is more arcade-oriented with the steering. There are also 8 circuits in this game, which gives it more variety when it comes to racing locales. All the vehicles are pretty much the same, though you can change the color at least. Some of the other highlights are the constantly high frame rates that it can maintain and destructible cars with insane crash physics. The level of challenge is pretty high in this game as well, so you'll really want to get acclimated with the physics and courses to feel more comfortable with it. There is another version of the game called Formula Retro Racing World Tour that greatly expands upon the achievements of this version, though that one doesn't release until March 31st, currently on pre-order, so I can't speak on that one too much. So consider your options and see which one will suit your needs best. That one is definitely on my radar for sure. Once I get that one, I'll play it and share my thoughts on a later date. This game supports up to 4 players locally with no online options besides leaderboards. I had a lot of fun with it and I recommend it most definitely. It's a solid experience for $14.99. Number 7 on this list is Aqua Moto Racing Utopia. I first played this game on the Wii U when the developers provided me a review copy, and it really surprised me. When the game went on sale for the Switch as low as it did, I couldn't resist to double dip and get that version too so I could enjoy the game on the go. Between the two, I would say the Switch version is superior, though the Wii U version is not bad at all gameplay wise. Now, I'm a huge fan of Wave Race 64 and jet skis in general, so this game was a pretty big deal to me when it released back in 2016. They have a nice variety of jet skis to choose from, consisting of ski, roundabout, and freestyle divisions. They can be upgraded as you progress through the game along with the color of your choice. Placing within the top 3 will land you some cash that you can use for upgrades and the like. Also, while you're racing, if you can maneuver the obstacles and environments, there are bonus cash tokens that you can collect that way as well. You can also customize your rider, whether it be skin tone, body type, gender, and gear with color scheme. As far as the tricks, there are a vast assortment of them, so it'll take some memorization and practice to master them. Carving the waves at high velocities feels pretty great, and the differences in the watercraft divisions are definitely distinguishable. The locales have a nice variety as well, and no 2 courses are alike. This game supports multiplayer locally up to 4 players, local wireless 2 through 4 players, and online 2 through 8 players. Please keep in mind that the online matchmaking is sparse, so round up your friends and coordinate for sure. It's definitely one of the more expensive games on this list at $39.99. However, there's a 90% off sale going on until March 30th, which drops the price significantly to $3.99. At this price, it's an absolute steal. I highly recommend taking advantage of it while you can. Next on the list, taking the number 6 spot, we have Riptide GP Renegade. For a series that originated from mobile, it actually has a very impressive performance, visuals, and gameplay loop that keep you coming back for more. It mildly reminds me of the late great Jet Moto series on PS1 back in the 90s, just with a much more intuitive control scheme and improved physics of course. The level progression and the upgrade system keeps you roped in and focused, and the customization options add a nice touch. And learning skills via the skill points you earn just by playing is a nice incentive as well. The trick system, as mentioned earlier, is very intuitive. Using the 2 analog sticks in different directions was a great decision as far as game design, since you use the triggers for acceleration and braking. And speaking of tricks, landing them fills your boost meter. It's important to change up the tricks that you do, as they don't yield you as much a reward the more you repeat them, so it's important to learn as many new tricks as you can to build your repertoire. Also, the more advanced the trick, the more it fills your boost meter, so you don't have to do as many to fill it up, which means you have access to a larger amount of boost meter, and that in turn gives you the upper hand. The soundtrack in this game is a nice mix of electronica and techno that's very easy on the ears and keeps the adrenaline pumping during the intense race sessions. This game supports multiplayer locally up to 4 players and online 2 through 8 players. Through my experience online, it was butter smooth with no input lag or stuttering whatsoever. This one is an all-out arcade-like blast whether you're in local 4-player split screen or online. Just keep in mind that the player base is pretty low, so it would be best to coordinate with friends for sure. You can scoop it up for $9.99 if you're interested. Coming in at number 5, we have Hotshot Racing. Another low-poly heavy hitter in my opinion. This game is all about the speed, boosting, and drifting, to the point to where the 3 can be combined and chained to maintain a consistent flow. The mechanics are top-notch and drifting feels so good. The boosting really showcases that sense of speed, and the game runs at a rock-solid 60 FPS through and through. Racing game veterans Sumo Nottingham and Lucky Mountain Games really put a lot of love and care into this 90s arcade-inspired game. The modes that this game offers are Grand Prix, Time Trial, Cops and Robbers, and Drive or Explode. Grand Prix and Time Trial are exactly what you would expect, and it does a great job of maintaining that blistering speed gameplay, and all modes have a very challenging AI to compete against. Now, Cops and Robbers mode adds a nice spin on the existing formula by having you start the race as one of the robbers trying to evade the police. The police will continue to crash into you until your life bar depletes and you explode. However, once you do, you then assume the role of one of the cops, and it's your turn to chase the robbers. If you fail at catching the robbers and they escape, the match is over. As far as drive or explode, you have to maintain a high speed, otherwise you'll trigger the time bomb that's attached to your car and you'll explode. It sounds simple, but when you're in the moment, the music changes, and then you see the notifications that a player has exploded, and that sense of urgency comes real hard. Each mode is available in single player, 4-player split, and 8-player online, though the time trial is single player only. There are 16 circuits in various locales, from coastal areas to Las Vegas desert environments. You can grab this game up for $19.99, however it does go on sale from time to time, so be on the lookout. Next up, in the number 4 spot, we have Asphalt 9 Legends. Although Gameloft is not necessarily an independent game studio, I included it on this list because the game is free to play, which makes it accessible for those that are interested in giving it a try to see if it's for them or not. Now, of course, this game having a free to play model is going to incorporate some form of microtransactions, which is a turnoff for a lot of folks. Though you have to consider that this game came from the mobile game genre, and in fact the whole series did. Even the Nintendo DS family of systems have some versions of the game. So the fact that the Nintendo Switch is a hybrid console, and that this game is on it, doesn't bother me one bit. You can grind a good bit of the cars that you're looking to acquire, thankfully, so purchasing in-game currency and other loot box types of content is purely optional. Being consistently reminded about those options between races and modes can be a little intrusive, but what can you do? Anywho, the game itself looks and controls very well, and the gameplay mechanics are both addictive and rewarding, where you gain nitrous meter by drifting and landing crazy tricks after launching off of ramps. You can also knock out other racers to keep them at bay by using 360 spin-out moves or hitting them at certain angles while nitrous boosting, which really turns the heat up in multiplayer mode, whether it be split screen or online. The stat upgrades and color customizations are enough to keep you engaged and focused on maxing out each vehicle you collect. The way you acquire cars is pretty decent too. The way it works is you earn blueprints for vehicles by winning races as you progress through the campaign, and in some cases, you can earn certain cars outright without the need to collect blueprints at all. Now it's important to note that you'll have to fuel up the cars, as the tanks can be rendered empty if you've been racing them a lot, and there are certain tokens you can use to refill them, or you can wait the allotted time that they give you to let it fill automatically. These tokens can be earned from racing in various types of events, or you can use real-world currency to buy some in bulk, again completely optional, thankfully. The courses are what makes this game a blast too. There are a lot of insane gaps to jump across and shortcuts to find along the way. Some courses even have tornadoes tearing up the environment in the background, and even collapsing bridges that will test your reflexes and skills. There are also multiple control methods that suit any level of gamer, so it could be fun for everyone. Try it out for free and see how you like it. Taking the number 3 spot, we have Cruis'n Blast. This is both a slightly scaled back, but also expansive port of the arcade hit that you might have seen at your local Dave & Buster's, Andretti's, Main Event, or any other similar type of entertainment venue. This game is of course exclusive to Nintendo, so the Switch is the only console version you're going to find. This racing game is an adrenaline-pumping thrill ride, literally. The way they set it up to where everyone experiences the same near-miss hazards and environmental shifts as you race is really something. And there are multiple themes and scenarios that you'll be going through as well. Whether it be colossal dinosaurs, aliens, natural disasters, or evading the cops, you're in for a treat for sure. Crazy impossible jumps and drops will have you on the edge of your seat hungry for more. On the initial playthroughs, you'll be hunting for hidden keys around the courses, which you can use for unlocking extra vehicles, and completing all the tours is required to unlock the remainder. Speaking of those, there are some really outlandish and playful ones to unlock too, from fire trucks to UFOs, and even a unicorn. Keep in mind that even though you unlock new vehicles, they still have to be purchased, with in-game currency of course. Now there are upgrades for your vehicles that you can purchase with in-game currency you earn from playing the game, where obviously you earn more cash by placing first in races. The upgrades are both visual and internal, and these include neon lights, decals, body kits, and nitrous tanks. The nitrous tanks have a limit of 5, so always remember to keep those topped off if you have enough cash to spare after your engine upgrades of course. The paint customizations are also a really nice highlight. This game supports up to 4 players locally on the same system, and 2 through 4 via local wireless. You can pick this one up for $39.99, and it does go on sale here and there too. I have a full review on the channel, so be sure to check that out when you have a moment. I'll have it in the pinned comments below. In the number 2 spot, we have Fast RMX. I'm no stranger to the wizardry that Sl0nk0b0mb is capable of when it comes to pushing Nintendo hardware beyond its limits and creating something magnificent. I'm a pretty big fan of their work as well. From Jet Rocket to Nano Assault Neo, and of course the Fast Racing series. It was rumored that this was Sl0nk0b's take on the F-Zero franchise unofficially, and you can really see the possibilities within the buttery smooth lightning fast gameplay. The snappy and responsive controls are on point, and the high-octane soundtrack really hits home and complements the experience. The vehicle models are very well designed, and the sense of speed is unmatched for the style of game. The gameplay loop is very engaging, consisting of matching the polarity of orange and blue when applicable to take advantage of the boost pads and ramps. If you hit these areas with the opposite color, you slow down and/or fail the boost. It's crucial that the player masters this aspect in order to have a comfortable experience with the game. Of course, it's possible to make a mistake in choosing the right color at a moment's notice, especially on new courses that you're unfamiliar with. Thankfully, the game is pretty forgiving considering this, and it doesn't penalize you that hard, so gaining your bearings isn't too much of a task. This game supports multiplayer for up to 4 players locally, 2 through 8 players via local wireless, and 2 through 8 players online. The connection has been flawless when I test with friends, and you can pick this one up for $19.99 or catch it on a sale. Either way, the price is justified. This is another very solid racer. Taking the top spot on my list is Sega Ages Virtua Racing. This is definitely the most biased of choices on my list because I grew up with this game in its earlier iterations. The original game on Sega Genesis was a huge deal back in the day because of the SVG technology it used to render the polygonal graphical style on the 16-bit hardware. It reminded me of Star Fox and the Super FX chip it used to pull off the impressive feat that it did on Super Nintendo. Then there was of course the Sega CD, 32X, and Saturn versions, just to name a few, but this Switch version is the only one that comes close to the Sega Model 1 version in my opinion, and it's currently the most recent. Solid performance all the way around, including online, though that can differ based upon the other player's connection. It's a shame that the extra cars and levels we saw in earlier iterations of the game aren't present here, but it's still possibly one of the best versions to have for sure. I tested out the arcade steering control method with the Hori Deluxe steering wheel, and it works flawlessly. It really brought me back to the days of going to the arcade and playing Virtua Racing, Daytona USA, Cruis'n USA, and San Francisco Rush. A lot of the games on this list either didn't support or don't work well with the steering wheel out of the box, but with some tweaking you might be able to work some magic with it. This game had it in mind, and that's what we want to see. This version runs at 60 FPS and 1080p docked, and 720p handheld of course, and it maintains this in split screen as well. Speaking of split screen, this game supports up to 8 players locally on the same console. It is a bit of a bummer that the online only supports 2 players, but that isn't a detractor in my book. Gameplay wise, it's just like you remember if you're a series veteran, and it's pretty straightforward. You have 3 courses to choose from, consisting of beginner, medium, and expert when it comes to difficulty. And since there's only 3 of them, it's all about that practice to where it comes to muscle memory. I'm hoping somewhere down the line they add some DLC for additional cars and levels that they had in the Saturn, PS2, and mobile versions, but only time will tell. That would make this the ultimate version for sure. Interestingly enough, the music in the game is really great, though you only hear it on checkpoints. Nice tunes nonetheless. There aren't really any gimmicks in this game, just hardcore arcade racing and raw skill. You can get this game for the low price of $7.99, which is an absolute steal. This is the best that this game has ever looked and ran, and I can't recommend it enough. Alright, so there you have it. That was the top 10 list of my favorite budget/indie racing games on Nintendo Switch. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments if any of your games made my list, or if you learned about any games that you may not have seen before. And if you end up picking up any of these for the multiplayer, let me know. Maybe we can link up and play some games together sometime. But anywho, I'm going to leave it there. And if you like what you saw, definitely like, comment, subscribe. Remember to keep it locked to SnoleyGames for all of your indie game, third-party game, tech review coverage, and sometimes Nintendo and retro games thrown in the mix. Alright? Y'all have a good one. Take care.
Futuristic classic. Futuristic classic. Time is of the essence. I feel like I got it mastered. Futuristic classic. Futuristic classic. It's always moving forward, so I'm never moving backwards.